And these are for your husband. Unrefined cocoa nibs from Guatemala to awaken the passion.
You've obviously never met my husband.
Oh, you've obviously never tried these.
Okay, let's all go. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 286. And our movie this week from the year 2000 is Chocolat. And here to talk with me about it, because she wanted to make sure that I finally saw it, it's Amy Frost. Amy, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I just want to put out though that that's not what cocoa nibs look like. But cocoa nibs are delicious. You can usually at Whole Foods you can get a little tin of them and they are covered in dark chocolate and they are honestly life-changing.
I love cocoa nibs. They're
They're
fantastic.
so good. But they don't look like that. Those were
No.
chocolate covered almonds.
Yes, they absolutely
And
were.
that's fine.
So before we get too much into the movie, and I do want to hear your history with it, I just have to point out that I am holding up the wrapper from a Ghirardelli raspberry chocolate bar because this movie made me made me leave the house and go buy chocolate. So,
It'll do that.
I mean, after 2 hours of watching people eat chocolate, I was like, I need
Simply
something.
must.
So what is your history with this movie? Because you brought it to me.
Okay. So, I for sure saw this movie when it came out in 2000. I may or may not have seen it in the theater because you know how I be with
Mhm.
theaters.
Right.
But it like Amelie, right? It fell into that perfect pivotal time of my life where it could just become my entire personality. The number of confectionery cookbooks that I have on my shelf basically all date from 2000 to 2003 because
Sure.
I was going to make chocolate forever. I've also read the books. I actually just reread probably a year ago now, maybe a little bit more. Time has no meaning. The original by Joanne Harris and the 3 sequels.
I did not know that there were sequels. I knew it was a book, partially from researching for this episode, but also I think I'd heard that somewhere before. I did not know there were
Yeah.
sequels, so that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember this one coming out because there was a lot of buzz around it at the time. It was directed by the director of the Cider House Rules, which had been up for Oscars the year before. Lasse Hallström is his name, Swedish director, I believe. And so I remember that, and I remember seeing lots of trailers for it. And I worked in a video store for a little while, so and it happened to be prominent on the shelves there. So I knew that the movie existed, and I knew that it was about it was some sort of romantic comedy thing, but that was kind of the extent of what I knew about it. And I was under the impression that Johnny Depp was a much more pivotal and prominent character in the film.
I was gonna say they were banking on his name pretty hard on this one because they did put him on the cover and the poster. And
Yeah.
now listen, his problematic self aside, I'm gonna tell you this is peak Johnny Depp. He is so beautiful in this movie. And I
No,
saw it when I was 19 and it was just a lot.
it absolutely is. You forget Johnny Depp has been Johnny Depp for a long time.
Oh,
We think
yeah.
about Captain Jack Sparrow.
I
That
mean,
didn't
that's the
happen.
problem is Captain Jack Sparrow got so big.
Oh yeah.
No, man, he was
But
a
that was
lot of things before he was Captain Jack.
Yeah, that was 3 years after this movie was Captain Jack.
Yeah.
He was already that guy at this point and had been
Oh,
for a
yeah.
number of years. So I get why they kind of really leaned on him in the marketing, but
Yeah.
kind of does the movie
He's
a disservice
beautiful. I agree.
because I went into this thinking, okay, so she's going to show up. He's going to be a big part of it. That's going to be the central focus of this entire narrative is their
No.
relationship. And no, he's barely in it.
No, Alfred
He's
Molina and Judi Dench being on the cover is a very different film,
it
but more
is
accurate, but a
uh,
different film.
far more accurate, and honestly, I would have been fine with that because I love both
Sure.
of them. This cast
Mhm.
just knocked me over. Like they kept it just kept going. Like Juliette Binoche. By the way,
I
right
wanted
up
to be
front.
her so badly. I
Oh,
maybe still do a little. I maybe haven't outgrown that part.
that's fair. Fair warning, I'm going to butcher a whole lot of French words and names, so I apologize in advance,
There's a
especially JF to
lot.
you, um, and to
I
you,
will say
Amy.
that this movie, there's a reason why most Hollywood movies that take place in like in France or that have French characters, they always have British accents. And there's a reason. And I think like in this movie though, I feel like there are enough genuine accents that the ones that aren't Judi Dench can be kind like they're fine. Like they're good enough. And
Oh,
so it
sure,
just kind of
sure.
sweeps them all along.
But Juliette Binoche plays Vianne. She's amazing.
Mm.
She's so good.
Mhm.
She just
Mhm.
captures you right away and
Yeah.
really just nails that character. And I did read where she spent a couple of days, but she went to a chocolate shop in Paris and trained on
Mhm.
how to make chocolates.
It's the dream. I mean, it's just for $800 you can if you are in Las Vegas, you can take wow. I had vaccines today, so my brain is toast. um Henri Guichon, you can take a it's like a 4-day course for $800 in
That
Las
sounds
Vegas.
like $800 well spent, though.
This is what I'm saying. It's a lot of money, but um it's not like an insurmountable amount of money.
No, no, not at all. So she plays Vienne, and her daughter Anouk might have been my second favorite character in this movie. I loved that
She's real
girl.
good.
She was amazing. Just this precocious little thing.
Mhm.
Um, I loved their relationship because it was
Mhm.
genuine and it felt real. It felt like, I mean, all the relationships in this. This was what I loved about it was I went into it with very little idea of exactly what it was going to be. I knew it wasn't like a laugh out loud romantic comedy in that sense, but I knew it
Sure.
was in that vein of sort of a romantic film. There was some
So a few parts kind of surprised you maybe.
a few parts did surprise me, yeah. But I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of it. But what I loved was it was about the people and the relationships of these people. So it's this little French village, and Vienne and Anouk kind of just arrive, and
They
they're
blow in
yeah they
fairly literally.
mhm, um, on the north wind, which was a nice continuing theme that I really enjoyed. Um, and they're in their red kind of riding hoods, which I thought
Mhm.
was what I liked too. So the look of this film was
Yeah.
phenomenal because it had it wasn't a muted color palette, but it wasn't oversaturated either.
I mean, and it's that's the whole thing, right? It's that very realistic, like it's this small town, so you wear gray or
Hmm.
brown or black if you're in mourning.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like that's it.
yeah. Except for
And they
Vienne
roll in
is
and they're
yeah bright red, and she's wearing all sorts. I love the line from Anouk, "Why can't you wear black shoes?" Like
black shoes like the other mothers.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, she shows up and goes to Judi Dench playing Armand. Um, I'm sure that's not pronounced right, but that's as close as I'm going to get.
No, that's good. That was
Uh,
fine.
but she owns she has a building, right? A passeterie
Yep.
with a apartment above it,
Apartment.
and Vianne wants to rent that, and it's a mess. So she's
Yeah,
got
she saw it on Craigslist.
to, and yeah, so they're going to
My favorite
convert
part
that.
about that though, right? They go into the patisserie and it is a mess and there's cobwebs everywhere and Anouk is writing her name in the dust on the glass and
Hmm.
Judi Dench is like, try to keep the place nice.
Yeah,
It is currently not nice.
no, no. So I mentioned Anouk being probably my second favorite character in this movie.
Mhm.
Number one,
Mhm.
Judi Dench, Armand.
Yeah. Yep.
Just like first of all, I'll watch Judi Dench literally do
She's so
anything
good. Yeah.
because she is just amazing. But this character in particular was so much fun because she was this cranky old lady who didn't want to be like. I would love stories of that character in her youth
Sure.
because it's got to be some just fascinating stuff. Like, and if you could get a young Judi Dench to be that, that would have been even better. But like, like I say, I watch her in anything, but she's so good here,
Mhm.
and she's such a
Yeah.
different but similar character to Vianne as well.
Mhm.
Um, and really, that was one of the things about this because the other kind of lead character is Josephine, played by Lena
Yep.
Olin, and the three of them. So Vianne, Armand, and Josephine are the central three characters, with Anouk being there as well. And they're such interesting uh, characters that have so much dimension to them because they're not two dimensional at all. They have
And
depth,
it's I mean,
and you get to learn
it's worth
more.
it's worth mentioning that this takes place in 1959.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and these are women who do not follow the rules.
No, they don't follow the rules, and they don't follow the rules in a small village of like 300
Right.
people, which is
Yeah.
even more so. Like, this is the type of place where, because Josephine is, she's married to the guy that runs the cafe, played by Peter Stormare,
Mhm.
who also another
He's a
actor
dick.
that I love. He's terrible. Like, he's just an awful character, but such a great actor. I love Peter Stormare. But she is not the dutiful wife at all. Um,
No. Well, that's not I mean, she is, because she has to be, because he beats her. And then
yes.
she steals things because people with kleptomania do it to feel in control of something.
Yeah. Which that was I loved the way that was handled, by the way. Because you see her at the beginning grabbing something out of somebody's purse, and a little bit later
Mhm.
on, it's sort of they never come right out and say, we don't have to have that moment of exposition of like, oh, I have kleptomania, or oh, I compulsively steal things. It's just the movie just lets us know all that through actions.
And I
And
mean, she straight up says that she doesn't. She's like, "Don't listen to what people say. I don't steal things." And then immediately hands Vianne a
the thing that
stolen
she stole.
item.
Yeah, yep. But
Mhm.
the dynamic of those three was a lot of fun because Vianne immediately kind of takes a liking to Josephine,
Yeah.
and then when Josephine sort of gets the gumption to finally do something about her
Yeah.
husband Serge,
Yeah.
um, that's where she goes. She goes to Vianne in the middle of the night
Yeah.
with
I mean,
that moment too when she shows up and she's like, "I finally did it." The look on
she's
her face.
hysterical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was powerful.
Um, Vianne also has a bit of that Mary Poppins thing,
Mhm.
right? Is like she comes in, she does stuff, and then, she takes off. She's just missing an umbrella. And, it's the same
Yeah,
idea.
same idea. And but I really dug all of that. Like her coming into this town and immediately setting up shop, the whole montage as she's cleaning and painting and all that, and like people are trying to peek in the windows. I captured one
But
piece of
not peek
audio.
in the windows.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
no, of course not. And just all the
The really
towns.
good part is
Go ahead.
at one point the windows are covered with newspaper,
Mhm.
but there are strategic gaps
Yep.
in the newspaper
Oh yeah.
so that people can in fact look in. Really good.
It's everything. Like everything that Vienne does for the first 2/3 of this movie is calculated and just absolutely amazing. Um, and
Because she's done it all before.
yeah, she's been doing
I
this in
mean, she
however
probably
many
had an
towns.
easier time in Vienna or whatever, you know what I mean? Like a bigger city. She probably has a
Probably.
slightly easier time.
Yeah, it's a little easier to blend in when you've got the anonymity of
Yeah.
a large city.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's that. I heard she's an atheist. The boys And it's like, what's that?
Yeah, so
I don't
good.
know.
I don't know.
That was because if you think about it, like small town, small village like that, the church is the central part of it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge thing, especially back in the 50s too. Like even more so
Yeah.
then than and
I mean, that's the whole thing though. Like that particular thing has not changed.
no.
Oh, I heard they're a insert anything here. Oh,
Hmm.
what's that? I don't know, actually.
Yeah, that
I
whole
heard they're a
idea of like
socialist.
othering.
What's that mean? I don't know.
I don't know, but it's different. And it's
It's
so different
different.
is scary.
Yeah.
We touched on him, but Alfred Molina as the
All right.
mayor of
So
the town.
everybody has their, like every actor, most actors, right? You have that movie.
Yeah.
And that's that. This is my Alfred Molina movie. One interesting thing, I'm not gonna do like in the book, but this one is like a big one.
Okay.
In the book, he is the priest.
Oh, okay.
And he he has like all of his interactions that like we learn about his sort of inner workings because he goes to talk to his mentor who's in the hospital in a coma. So it's like, I mean, we definitely have in this movie that everything that Vianne does is an attack at the church.
Yeah.
But when Renault is the priest, like when he is the priest, it's a little more direct. You don't have that young priest to soften the things in between.
No, but it's an interesting way to adapt the story because I think it makes Renault more a little bit more sympathetic, but also
Sure.
less
Oh,
because like
absolutely.
he's such a kind of tragic character in a lot of ways of like he just doesn't
Yeah.
know what to do. And in here, like there's that scene towards the end where he's on his knees in the church looking up being like, tell me what to do. I don't
Yeah.
know what to do at this point. And
And
I can
without that,
see,
we wouldn't get his wife away in Italy,
yeah,
which is very good because
oh
nobody's talking about it.
no. And I
Mm-mm.
clocked that right away. I'm like, oh, she ain't coming back. Like
Mm-mm.
that was,
Mm.
but I liked also adding in the young priest there and the
Yeah.
dynamic between them because Renault wants to control what's going on. He doesn't know
Yeah.
what to do, so he's got to have some semblance of control. And so being the mayor of the town and also he's got a young priest who's only been on the job for what was it like 5 months or something
5
like that
weeks.
or 5 weeks.
5 weeks. You're running into Lent after 5 weeks?
rough
Oh,
rough
man.
going. But, here's Renault. He can really exert a lot of power and influence over that Père Henry.
Yeah.
Or Henri, sorry.
They
Who I loved too. He was adorable. He was
He's
great. Like,
great. The part where he's in the garden
yep,
singing Elvis, right?
yes.
Elvis? Yeah.
I
Really
swear
cute.
I've seen that actor somewhere before, but I think he just looks like a young version of
Yeah.
another actor because I went through
Sure.
his credits and I couldn't
Yeah,
find
yeah.
anything. But yeah, I really liked Alfred Molina in this because he's the bad guy, right? He's our
Yeah.
antagonist, but he's
Yep.
not a evil person. He's very misguided. He's got bad ideas, but he also knows where he has lines that he doesn't want to cross.
I would we'll get to that because I don't know that I necessarily agree.
Okay, so hear me out on this because
All right.
the main antagonist is Renault, and then you've got Serge, who is Josephine's husband, Peter Stormare, and he is not the best person either, but he also feels like he's a very simple character, and by simple I mean he's
Yeah,
just
he's not bright. This is all like he can run his cafe,
yep,
which is closer to like
it's more
a
of a pub.
cafe in 1959 France, right, is a lot closer to a pub than it is. It's not a Starbucks. Like
No,
it's not.
no.
It's not. You're not getting macarons at Serge's. You're
No.
just not.
But like he can run that, and that's about it. And he doesn't.
And it's the only place in town, so he does not have to be good.
Right. Absolutely. And he can, he can run that and play his card games and he's got his
And
wife,
really,
and that's
it's
like
probably Josephine that's doing most of it,
probably. I mean, if we're being honest here.
keeping it afloat.
But he is also incredibly suggestible, and takes the wrong messages from Renault
Oh yeah,
at a
he
lot of
does.
points. But my reasoning for saying Renault is obviously misguided, has some really bad ideas, but does have those lines that don't get crossed. Is
Hmm.
so after Josephine leaves Serge and she shows up at
Yeah.
Vianne's, and now she's
Yep.
there learning to make chocolate, and Renault finds out about it, and he shows up. He's like, "I hear you're harboring a fugitive," and
It's like, no,
she's like, yeah,
no,
okay,
but
Josephine, come
Josephine's
on out
boy.
here." And when she shows Renault the bruises and the cut on her head,
Yeah.
he does immediately. He's like, "Whoa, hold on, I didn't know about this." Now, the way he deals with it, not the best way, but
See,
it is that
I
line where he's like, "Hold on a second, this wasn't what I understood was going on," or maybe he didn't want to think that that was
yeah,
what was
I think
going on.
it is. I think that he has less of a problem with it and more that he just doesn't want to look at it.
Well, so he does come from a place of wanting to keep up appearances, but
Yeah.
that is the line, because I did read some genuine, like, wait a second, on seeing the bruising and the actual physical
Yeah,
injuries on her, and that was his
sure.
thing to like, all right, let me go shape this guy up. Like, he's doing it for a
Yeah.
self-serving reason. He wants to kind of prove that he can do it, but
Yeah.
that is the line. And then later on, when Serge goes too far and lights the fire, that is the line where he's like, "Ho ho ho, you no,"
See,
and kicks him out.
I think that when he I think that when he says something must be done, that is 100% along the lines of what he's thinking, and it is only once he is confronted with the reality of it that he is like, "Oh, no, actually, this would be very bad for all of us.
I
You need to
think
get out."
I can see it going that way as well. I think it was. I don't think he thought that it would go to the point of setting a fire, and like it was more of. I think it felt like the thing where it went further than he wanted it to. Like, yes, it
The
was
other
along
thing
those lines of like something needs to be done. Serge took that, went way too far with it. And again, that was that crossing of the line where he's like, I wanted you to do something. I didn't want you to do that. That wasn't what I was
I
talking
want you
about.
to beat Rue into the ground. I didn't
Yeah.
Um, one of the other things that's, like, not necessarily as clear in the movie as compared to the book, which I know I said I wasn't gonna do this, but
No, it's fine.
he is, he's fasting for Lent, and he's hardcore fasting for
Hmm.
Lent.
Yeah.
Like, he is not eating. So he spends a lot of the time kinda delirious because he has not eaten. He
Yeah.
is not making good choices.
That does get
Like, you
mentioned
see it happen,
once.
but it's it's not it's not quite as impactful.
No, it would have been nice to have that be a little more prominent, because you see him like turning down food or not eating food, and then he
Yeah,
does mention it
drinking his
at
little lemon
towards the
hot
end.
lemon water.
Yeah. Um
Yeah,
ugh. But he does mention it at the end, like, I've been fasting. But that's the first time we really get
because
any real.
and that's his whole thing, right? As he sees more and more of his people going over to the dark side, right?
Mhm,
Like, the harder he goes at his own sort of religious fervor to
mhm.
make up for it in some way.
Yeah. Again, very misguided. Like, the character is misguided. He
Yeah.
definitely goes too far. He's not evil, but he's not good either.
No.
However, we do see, like with a lot of the characters in this, actual character arcs and growth and change in them over the course of the movie, which is really nice to see in a story.
Mhm. Yeah.
You don't always get that. Not like a lot of movies
No.
don't end up with that actual true character arc like you would get in a book. In a book, you do have enough time with a character to have A to B to C growth.
Right.
But it was nice to see, because Josephine is a very different character at the end of the movie than she is at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and even Carrie Ann Moss, I didn't mention her.
Yeah.
Yet I love Carrie Ann Moss.
This was a busy time for her.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, because she's coming off The Matrix
Yep.
and going to do this very different movie. She's great.
So different.
Doesn't
Yeah.
have a ton of screen time, but her time on screen is good. But I loved, again, her arc, because at the beginning, she is very like closed off and following in Renault's kind of footsteps in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And
And a lot of it too, right? Because Armand mentions it. Caroline is Armand's daughter.
yes.
And she does mention, right? Like we do get this story that like Luke's father has died. We don't know how.
hmm
He's a little young for it to have been the war, so it seems like it was probably something tragic. Not that war isn't tragic, but you know what I mean. That's
Yeah.
different. It's a different tragic. And so she has become very overprotective of Luke because that's all she has left.
Yep.
Especially as I mean, she has because she works for Renault, right?
Yes.
I think so. You know, she has a job because she has to. And it's for you. So she's just she's doing the best. She's doing what she thinks is the best she can.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved Luke as a character, that kind of
Luke
like
is so good.
50s era French
Creepy little
goth.
kid.
Yeah, he's like he's the little goth kid. He just doesn't dress in all black and have eyeliner, but like he's obsessed with the macabre. And
Well, I mean, he goes to church every week, and there's like a corpse on a cross right up in the front.
yeah,
It's pretty dark.
but I even like the beginning of the movie. He's in church doodling one of his, like that. Like it's just I loved him as a character. He was great, and the fact that he has that artist soul, and he does want to connect with his grandmother, but he also doesn't want to upset his mother. So he figures out a way to do it when she's at her weekly haircut at the salon. He takes off for the
salon is good. The salon is used very well in this. I think my favorite use of the salon is when Renault goes in. And
oh yeah,
it's just like mentioning offhand while everyone's there.
mm-hmm.
Oh, that, oh yeah, doesn't go to church. Oh, and that poor illegitimate child of hers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's so good because he knows that those 6 women that are in there, he's just told the entire village.
Yes. Yeah.
One stop, told everyone.
He is not a fool. Like he knows what he's doing.
No.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, again, what I like about these characters is they actually feel like real people. Like,
yeah,
it was so good. Yeah, I think my my actual note was like, oh, he's in there spreading them rumors, getting that going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, sir. You terrible, terrible person, you. And then he's, of course, really pushing his agenda in the church by rewriting the sermons. I have 1 or 2 notes, and he hands it to him, and it's just
so good on the marker.
I didn't mention, by the way, the married couple, the sound that I played at the beginning of the episode where she gets the cocoa nibs for her husband. We meet them because we meet all the characters in the church at the beginning of the movie, save Vianne and Anouk. And he is Alphonse is asleep.
Yeah.
And I loved him. Ron Cook plays him. Now, I know Ron Cook from Hot Fuzz because he's the little drunk that they get. And so I loved him in that movie. So seeing him here, I was like, oh. And then I do remember the trailers for this movie because they used that shot of him walking up behind his wife after finding the cocoa nibs
with her while she's scrubbing. Floor.
It's like, oh, those cocoa nibs did the job because they. I think my note was like they ignited the passion, all right. And
so good.
When she comes back later, looking for more of them was so good.
Do you have more of those? Do you have more of those things? Yeah. How many do you want? How many do you have?
I may have captured that, so we might hear that again later. There was some good lines in here. This had like moments that really made me laugh. It
Mhm.
was definitely a comedy, but it was a comedy. It's not a belly laugh, laugh out loud type comedy. It's like it's the more subtle comedy,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed it. This would make a great double feature with Amelie. Like this would play back to back with that. I can understand why you like both these movies so much because
I
they're
have a
very
type.
you. Um, but I like plus the whole thing happening during Lent too, and like her
Mhm.
showing up to set up the chocolate shop during Lent is great. Um, just all of it. You had John Wood playing the old man with his dog Charlie.
Guillaume. Yeah.
Guillaume. I love
Guillaume
Charlie.
and Charlie.
Charlie was great. I
Don't
love how
give chocolate
Charlie.
to dogs.
Huh? No, no,
Don't give
no,
chocolate to dogs.
no.
Charlie eats
However,
a lot of chocolate.
he ate the cocoa nibs, and then they also had ignited the passion in Charlie, which
Yeah,
did make me laugh when he's
that was pretty funny.
starting to mount the other dog. I might have lost it there.
It was pretty funny.
But it's great because she shows up and just like Vianne starts to slowly affect the townspeople, and then the boat shows up with Rue, Johnny Depp, and his
Mhm.
crew traveling into town. And
Yeah.
now we get kind of our, uh, I guess you would call it the inciting incident is them showing up because
Yeah,
it
because
changes
like
things.
now it's like Vianne's bad, but she's like one person bad. This is
Hmm.
like a large problem.
Yeah.
They're gonna show up with their ideas and their
Yep.
free thinking and their handsomeness
Right.
and they're just gonna it's just gonna ruin everything during Lent, no less.
Yeah. Oh, terrible, terrible. Because again, it's the others,
Yeah.
and they're different, and so because of that, they're wrong. And the moment where the council's like, well, legally we can't do anything about them. Like we
Yeah.
can't make them leave because it's public land. And
Yeah.
that's when Renault says, well, sure, yeah, like as the council said, legally we can't do anything, but we can make them know they're not welcome. And there again,
Yeah.
that's Alfred Molina killing it because the way his face changes when he goes
Mhm.
from when he starts to say we can make them know they're not welcome was so well delivered. I loved that moment because he genuinely looks frightening there while also being like kind of ineffective, but not. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's like,
He's and I mean, well, he's also happy because up till now, all of his efforts to thwart Vianne have because he's already promised her she'll be out of business by Easter,
yeah,
and it's not going great. And so now, the river rats have arrived, and he's like, "All right, this one I got for sure. I've got this one.
and
Maybe this one I've got."
and Alfred Molina has this wonderful charm about him and charisma while also being
Mhm.
able to play a great villain.
Yeah,
He can walk that line so well because I have watched him in movies where I absolutely adore him as a character, and I've watched him be just the worst ever. And
yeah,
this movie, he does kind of both of those because he's terrible 90% of it.
yeah.
But that moment at the end in the denouement
Mhm.
when he's having his little moment with Carolyn is just
Mhm.
adorable, and I loved that when he turns around
Yeah,
and he sees Vianne and gives her the little nod and smile. It was great because him as a character, everything for him is kind of born out of fear. It's born out of the fear of
yeah.
what other people are going to think of him.
I mean, he's especially in this, right? Like he's a comte, right? He's a count. He's a like a named lord in 1959.
Right?
Like this isn't gonna last. You know what I mean? Like he
Nope.
doesn't have a whole lot to stand on. You
No,
know
he
what I
does not.
mean? Like that whole thing is yeah.
It is interesting that he's the priest in the book because I do
Yeah.
like that change. I think adapting to this particular medium and not having him be the priest, it does make me want to read the book just to see how it plays out differently. You having done
Mhm.
both, do you have a preference? Do you like him better as the priest?
Um
Do you think that adds more, or did you like having
it's
that buffer of the young priest and sort of that interplay there as well, where he's still trying to do all of the stuff that as a priest he would be doing, right? Like leading the sermons and all that.
Yeah.
But now he's doing it from behind the scenes instead of being up front.
I think it's when he's the priest, it's a little more right because it's honestly it's a little less self-centered because as far as he sees it, this is an attack on God.
Mm-hmm.
And it is his holy duty to go to war. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so like it's a little less just like this is my town and I like things my way. It's a little less persnickety and this is a war on God and I haven't eaten in 3 weeks. um, I'm gonna see Joan of Arc in the mist at any moment. Everything's going great for me.
But I also think it kind of adds a layer to him because
Sure.
he is doing all of that without being the leader of the church.
Yeah.
And it gives us another character who can kind of take and it what it does too, I think, is it gives him someone to look at the end and listen to that sermon
Yeah.
when Henri is like, I don't know what I got for y'all. Like, I don't know what the
Yeah.
sermon's going to be. And he just starts speaking from the
All right,
heart.
here's what I think. Yeah. I do like I also really like the scene when Renaud drags Serge in for confession
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was good.
and Henri is like, well, confession has to be made under, as an act of contrition. Are you here under contrition? Contrition. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Great. He's ready.
that was so good. Just pulls the
So
curtain up. And then,
and
but
then he's in catechism class with all the little kids. He's in the tiny chair.
again,
Learning about mortal sin with 7-year-olds.
Peter Stormare sells that so well too, because he is kind of a
He gets
kid.
so mad he doesn't know the answer.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And Dee Dee does. It's
he's
so good.
he's a child. He really is in a
Mhm.
lot of ways a child, and he's just so good at it. Because there's another guy who just has that charisma about him,
Yeah.
as an actor, and so because that could easily not work.
Sure.
And it takes the right
And
person
we
to
get
make
that,
that work.
and then we get him breaking into Vianne's and almost choking her
Mm-hmm.
before Josephine hits him over the head with the frying pan, and it's the bet that her line is so good
Oh yeah. Oh.
when she's like, "I can't use a skillet."
Mm-hmm. Because and that was the thing. Like when he showed up earlier in that day in the suit, right? He's looking
Yep,
all
with the
nice. He's
flowers, and he's
shaved.
like,
He's
"I'm
got the
so
flowers.
sorry. I'm so
And
sorry." And she's like, "Thank you. Thank you for apologizing." He's like, "Great, come home." She's like, "No.
because
No, that's not how it
right,
works."
but in his mind, he did what he was supposed to
Well, that's
do.
what Renaud told him.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so he fully believed that's all he had to do, and that would win her back, and she would come back, and everything would be fine again, right? Because all Renault and by extension Serge want are to get back to the status quo and what they had before.
Yeah.
And it's all surface level. So, and that was kind of where I was coming from earlier with like Renault has those lines that you don't cross. That was the one,
Mhm.
like finding out, oh, he is like he knew, but he didn't know that Serge was physically beating her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And see, I think that that's a part where it works better if he is the priest because that like the
Yeah.
sacrament of marriage is whole, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
instead of just being like, well, I mean, especially since Renault's wife is gone. She's just gone. She just left.
Yeah.
She went to Italy.
Well,
She's not
now,
coming back.
okay, there's something in the book. Him being the priest, he doesn't have a wife, right?
No.
Okay. So that was the thing that they did in this adaptation.
Yep.
I'm curious though, did she leave or is she passed away? Because they
I
sort
think
of
that
don't.
I think she just left. I think she's shacked up with Giuseppe or somebody out there. Like she's going to carnival. She's having a lovely time because he's a lot to deal with. She needed to go to the sea,
Yeah, I mean, clearly he
get
has a
some
lot to deal
air.
with. He's taken the Lent thing a little too far. You know. And while all this is going on, like there's so many great interwoven stories here, because you've got the whole dynamic of Armand and Carolyn and Luke going on, and Vianne is involved in all of this, and Renault's over here, and like just the way all of this is playing together, and none of it feels short shafted either. Like
Yeah.
nothing feels like it doesn't get attention. And
Yeah.
even bringing in Rue and all of them
Yeah.
into things, like it all works out to play together really well. I love how, and I'll tell you what, right now, I knew it was coming as soon as Armand and Vianne, when Vianne's having her little kind of not breakdown, but she's like, the whole town is against me. What am I going to
Yeah.
do? And Armand says, throw me a party. It's my 70th
Yep.
on Wednesday. You throw me this party. And the second she said, and the next day I will check into whatever the convalescent home was,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, she ain't
Yeah.
making it. She's planning on that being her last night.
The reveal of her insulin is so good,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
she pulls up her skirt and there's all the bruises on her leg, and she's like, "Can't you just say I'm a drug addict? It's more
Yeah.
glamorous."
Oh, like it's such an interesting story with her, because she is just she is such a strong character of, I'm
Yeah.
going to do what I want. I don't care.
Yeah.
And to have that then be revealed, like, oh, and here she is drinking hot chocolate and like hanging out in the chocolate
Yep.
shop. And it's like, oh, and she's severely diabetic. Cool.
Cool. Cool.
And she
Cool.
doesn't care,
Cool.
because as she says, it's
Yeah.
my life. Let me live it how I want. And
Yeah.
honestly, when you get to be
I mean, listen.
in your twilight years, like, that's how I'm going to be. I don't care.
eh, I mean, I can think of worse ways to go than that meal.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
sure.
And that's the thing, right?
Uh,
When she tells her, throw me a party, and after that I will check into the thing and I will do what my daughter is wanting me to do. Number
yeah.
one, I knew like immediately, okay, she has no actual plans of that happening, but she's going to put up the appearances for it. And what a way to go out. Like, give me one last party. We're going
Yeah.
to dance and sing and have great food and all of that. And the way it all played out, I loved it. I love
It's
when
really good because when they come out with the food and Rue is there,
Mhm.
and one of them is like, "Oh, but if Renault finds out," and Armand's like, "He's not here. He was not invited."
Yup. Oh, she and it is all Judi Dench. Just
Yeah.
nailing it, because
Mhm.
she has a gravitas to her. Like,
Yes.
when she
She
delivers lines, you believe it. That's why she made such a good M in the James Bond
Yeah.
series, because James Bond is this hyper masculine character, right? And M has him
Mhm.
by the short hairs all the
Oh,
time,
yeah.
and he ain't going to
All
mess
the
with
time.
M. Like,
No.
doesn't matter how
Well,
tough doesn't matter how tough James Bond thinks he is, M still is going to call the shots.
yeah.
And it's because it's
Yeah.
Judi Dench. Um,
She's incredible. I love her.
she really is. And then when the announcement is
I really
made,
like her transformation too, because when we first see her, when Vianne and Anouk get to town, she's like given up in an armchair.
yeah, oh yeah,
You know what I mean? And then she's like going out and her hair's done and she looks nice and she's wearing, bright colored tights and,
and it's that
being great.
it's Luke showing up, right?
Yeah.
It's Vianne
Yeah.
facilitating that and getting Luke there, which was so well orchestrated, because I
Mhm.
loved how we got the scene of her, Vianne, coming up to him as he's drawing and taking an interest in
Yeah.
his art and asking him about doing a
The dead
portrait.
bird, drawing a dead bird.
Hmm. There again, like I said, he was a
He's
goth.
so good.
He was
Yeah.
the goth kid. But she takes the interest in his art, asks him about doing a portrait, and then we cut away.
Yeah.
And that's when she talks to him about coming to do a portrait. Like, she told him about doing a portrait of
Yeah.
his grandma, but it's so
Yeah.
well handled in the narrative,
Mhm.
and I liked
Yeah.
that. And that was the turning point for Armand when Luke shows up. Now she's got something,
Mhm.
because up until that point, not only does she not get to see him, but she feels like she's never going to.
Yeah.
And now she has something to go out for.
Mhm.
So I loved that so much. Just all of. But like at the dinner, the announcement, oh, there is no dessert here
There's no dessert here.
because it's on Rue's boat, and everybody, ugh. And I just love Armand. Any complaints? Come to me. And they're all like, all right, we're going to the boat.
No, we're not.
Cool.
I guess we're going to the boat.
And
Let's
then
go.
they go and they have a great time.
Mhm.
But as soon as I saw that gas can, I'm like, oh, Serge, what are you doing? What are you doing,
I
buddy?
forgot like when they're dancing and everything, I forgot how hard I went listening to this soundtrack when I was in college. Cause it
This,
was like, cause this is, cause I was an art major. And so
mm-hmm,
there's a lot of time in a studio doing stuff. And so you kind of need like a certain vibe
mm-hmm.
to whatever you're doing. And I for sure listened to this
Oh, this
so
music
much.
was great. This was a
Mhm.
fantastic soundtrack that I am going to put into a rotation and listen to
Yeah,
when I've got
it's
projects
real
to
good.
work on. Because I love film scores anyway,
Mhm.
and they're great to do work to.
Yeah.
Because you can. I like listening to music with lyrics, but sometimes I
Yeah.
want stuff that doesn't have lyrics to it, but
If I have
has.
to read something,
Oh yeah,
I
no,
can't have lyrics. You know
no,
what I
because I
mean?
just
I
start
simply
reading the lyrics, like
yeah.
whatever it is, I'm gonna be. But
Yeah.
I love film scores for that reason because they're written to and because they're set to a movie, I can be transported to that place while also doing what I'm working on. And so like this is
Mhm.
one that will be in my rotation because it was great music. And it had really just a cool sound and great use of character in the music.
Mhm.
So that'll be one for me for sure. But like I loved the scene of Vianne and Rue dancing
Yeah.
because you see her just how she changes from the beginning of that scene to the end of it with no dialogue,
Yep.
but so much happening and so much being said in that scene is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, this whole movie was beautiful and it looks great. And like the production design and the fact that they actually shot it in a French village of like 300 people,
Yeah.
and used extras.
I feel
Used
like that just saves like a lot. like, like you can just do it. It saves like a lot of time and energy. Just swap out some cars and otherwise it all looks the same.
Well, what's funny is they shot a bunch in this little French village, but everything with Judi Dench and Johnny Depp was shot in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Judi Dench's husband, I think, was ill at the time, and so she didn't want to be very far from
Sure.
him. Um, so all of that stuff, because the village they actually shot at didn't have a river by it. That was
Mm.
another thing, and they also rebuilt part of it in a soundstage, some of the town
Yeah.
square in the interiors. They did a fantastic job because it was hard for me to tell what was soundstage and what wasn't. There was a couple
Yeah.
times where I'm like, that looks soundstage-ish, but it was
Sure.
mostly interiors, which is easy to do. But all the
Yeah.
exteriors looked great. Like I just loved it, and it had that feel. Like one of my first notes was, "I love this little village. It's the kind of place I want to go visit. I want to go just
Yeah.
see something like that because those things are just cool."
Yeah.
Followed by Anouk is adorable because she was,
She's so cute.
and
And
her
she
having
has an imaginary kangaroo.
her imaginary kangaroo, which is a rabbit in the book. I think is what I read because
Uh,
pantouf
it
is
might
French for
be.
slipper.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I like that pantouf
But the
shows up at
kangaroo
the end.
thing yeah, the kangaroo thing really spoke to me because I had imaginary brothers in Australia when I was little.
Oh, well, what do you know?
Yeah.
I
Was
was not
super
expecting to see pantouf at the end either.
Yeah.
I will be
I'd
completely
forgotten
honest.
about it till I watched it today, and I was like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure that's a wallaby, but it doesn't
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
matter.
It's totally a wallaby.
It's
But
irrelevant."
to have pantouf and then the statue smiling that we've seen a couple of
Yeah.
times, that statue, which I also read that statue was made for the movie.
Yeah.
That wasn't actually there, which I could have fooled me. They did a great job with it, but
Yeah.
seeing the statue smile right at the end gave me um, that and like pantouf. That gave me very
Mhm.
Aquilo vibes. and feeling.
Sure.
Just to actually show that, because throughout the whole movie, it's just been skirted around that there's magic going on, that there's something more to the chocolate and what she's doing. And I kind of liked playing with that idea throughout all of it of like, is it just chocolate, or is there something more to this? Because of the whole like the North Wind, and we get her backstory, which was beautiful, of her grandparents. I
Mhm.
love that. I love how that paid off, where Anouk keeps
Yeah.
asking for that story, and finally
Yeah.
we get the story.
Yep.
I was in love with all of that. Like, it was just great.
I like the sort of, I'm gonna call it a scrying wheel
Yes, that was cool.
that she uses, and she spins it and says, "What do you see?" And that's how she picks your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I know she has, I forget if you see it at all in the movie, but she has her mother's tarot deck also is
We didn't see a
pretty important.
tarot deck. We just see the urn with her mother's
Yeah.
ashes. That was a heartbreaking scene
Yeah.
when it happened. But then for the way that, again, the payoff of that at the end, where
Mhm.
once again the north wind blows in, but this time she's
She's like, "Here,
breaking the
take her."
cycle.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't
Because like Vianne's story is kind of cool because she has been very transient and moving town to town. That's what she knows. That's what she grew up with.
Right.
But she's found something here. She's found something in this village that is enough for her to stay, and it's enough for her to break the cycle for Anouk as well, because Anouk, at the beginning, I loved how at the beginning when somebody asks her how Anouk is handling it, and she's like, "Yeah, she handles it great. She does great moving from town to town." By the time she's having that same conversation with Rue,
Yeah.
she's giving that line of like, "No, she handles it great," because
She's great. She
that's
makes
the
friends so easily.
yeah, followed up immediately by she hates it. Like,
Yeah.
she finally can't stick with the lie, the conditioned response she has to everybody about it.
Yeah.
She knows that Anouk can't stand the moving all the time, and it showed a lot about Vianne, that she was willing to stay here for Anouk in a way.
It was more than that though, because she's ready to leave. She
Mhm.
and she, like, shoves Anouk into her little riding cape and,
Yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
they're packed and leaving.
Mhm.
And, um, and then everybody's in the kitchen getting ready for the fertility festival.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody started cutting onions on me when that happened. Because there was
Yeah.
the scene before that where the urn gets dropped and all the ashes are
Mhm.
out there, and Anouk immediately going from I don't want to leave, fighting her over it,
Yeah, yeah.
to as soon as that happens, Anouk is like, "Mom, I'm sorry," and she's trying to like scoop up the ashes and put them
Scoop
back in
it
and all
up.
that. And uh, I'm already emotional because we've lost Armand at this point.
Yeah.
And like, so emotions are running high for me. And then when she walks into the kitchen and there's Josephine and Carolyn and Luke
Yeah.
and Alphonse and his wife, like all of them in there, and they're all cooking or trying to learn how to do this for the festival, Josephine's like, "This is happening. I am not giving this up because it's
Guillaume and
important to
Charlie are
her."
there too, right? And the lady that he likes,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Oh, which they were adorable.
They were so cute.
Guillaume was
She's in
absolutely
mourning.
adorable.
Oh, when did her husband die? Oh, in the war.
It's
Oh,
been 15
that's so
years.
hard. It's been 15 years. No, 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 no. 1917. This poor woman.
Oh, but yeah, that moment when she walks into that kitchen and they're all in there cooking, I had to pause and give myself
Yeah.
a minute to collect. So it's like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, this is so much. Yeah, it was amazing, and I did capture some audio because there's some great lines and great moments in this. I mentioned this one earlier, but I just like this because again, this is that opening montage. She's cleaning up and painting and fixing up the patisserie, and is that am I close on there?
Patisserie.
Patisserie.
Yeah, there you go. Like pastry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I know.
It is. I'm terrible with French. But the strategic spots in the newspaper on the windows, and you get the two boys.
I heard she's an atheist. What's that? Don't know.
But they just know it's bad.
They know it's bad.
Mm-hmm. After getting the cocoa nibs, and she comes back in the next day, which, again, that whole scene where she's at home and she's like, no,
So good.
why
She
did
tries
I
to
buy
throw 'em
these? And she
away.
throws them away, and they don't go in. I'm like, oh, he's gonna find them, and he wakes up and
The
finds
best is
them.
when you see her like trying to close the shutters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then comes in the next day, and there's Armand is sitting there drinking her hot chocolate, and she walks in just.
Do you have more of those bean thingies, please?
Oh, sure. How many do you want?
How many have you got?
I need to get a shorter version of just bean thingies, because the way she
Do you have
pronounces
any
that.
bean cookies?
The backstory with her parents and how they met, to just give us an idea of who she is and why she does what she does.
I mean, because that's the other part, right? Even if she were not an atheist, even if she were not, a transient kitchen witch, like she's still like she's still like half Mexican.
Yeah.
Which I feel like in 1959 is maybe not great for her.
No, probably not. But she's telling the story, and I love that it's Anouk's favorite story of hearing about how
Yeah.
her grandparents got together. And I loved this line, which
It's like
is
not a
after.
great story.
No,
Like it's pretty tragic.
it is very tragic. It's very sad. Because I mean, you've got her father, Georges, who is all about like learning all this new stuff, and he goes to Mexico and he learns about the cocoa and all of that kind of stuff. He meets this wonderful woman, and
He was willing to slightly bend the rules of Christian courtship.
just slightly.
Just a little bit.
And then to lose all that because the north wind blows, and she left with the daughter. Like,
Oh.
I felt bad for him, you know?
Yeah.
I don't remember who did this, but it was just a little chuckle, and I had to capture it. I think that's Armand.
I think so.
I think it's after she drinks the cocoa with the chili powder in it.
Yeah.
Which
your cinnamon's gone rancid.
I loved that moment, and then the way it. And again, there's that kind of skirting around. Is it magic, or is it just the chili powder and chocolate? And they never say one way or the other, and I like that.
Yeah.
But I loved like just her reaction. It woke something up in her, and then she goes on to start telling stories about her youth of like sneaking out to be with boys and her mom not knowing. Like, I dug that. It was so good.
I like that she, because her whole thing is that she knows everybody's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But it also might be that everything is just really good. And it's only Rue that kind of calls her out on it. Being like,
yeah.
this is great. I'm unmade. This is not my favorite.
But again, that's exactly what I'm talking about, where they don't commit one way or the other. Does she actually know everybody's favorite, or is it, like you said, everything's just that good? It goes either way, and I love that. I love the ambiguity of it.
Yeah.
I like when Anouk gets in the fight at school or church or whatever, right? And she's fighting with him because they're making fun of her having her imaginary kangaroo. And then the teacher puts them in timeout, right? Which is a very 1950s thing where they just have to sit and leaning against the wall with their hands over their head, and they can't move. And this exchange, and this made me love Anouk so much, was this exchange with the boy.
My mother says you don't have a father. Sure I do. We just don't know who he is.
Because she's like, it's just matter of fact. There's nothing, she has no shame in that. There's no worry from her at all. She's just like, I got a dad, I just don't know who he is. Oh well, big deal. And I just really, really like that exchange. And then later on, she solidified it when they go to the cafe, and Vianne
So good.
Vianne goes to find Josephine,
Yep.
and she's standing there next to Alphonse and gets into the
'Cause they're
card
playing
game.
cards.
Yep, they're
Yeah.
playing cards, and I can't remember what game he said it was, but she's like, "Yeah, I know how to play it." And then when Vianne comes back later, you just get
Look what I won.
she just housed those
Just
guys.
2 ducks.
She went in and just cleaned them out, and it's so good, so good. Um, oh, you had this was just a great moment. This made me chuckle quite a bit when because Vianne again, she really loves to ruffle the feathers, especially of Renault.
Yep.
And so when he comes in and she's walking out of the kitchen with a plate, and it's
Can I interest you in some nipples of Venus?
as a matter of fact, you could.
During Lent, no
Yes,
less.
during
This man has
Lent.
not eaten.
Now,
Man's
see,
had a dry croissant in the last 3 days.
if they really like, I didn't realize. I knew he wasn't partaking. I knew it was Lent, but I didn't realize he wasn't eating at all at that point.
I don't think he was eating much.
Yeah, like I hadn't
There is,
figured.
by the way, there is a confection called the Nipples of Venus, but they don't look like that. They essentially look like the opposite, and they have chestnut filling, and they're covered in white chocolate with a little brown nipple.
I
There
mean,
you go.
sounds good.
You know.
Yeah, I'm all for having a confection called the Nipple of Venus.
It's really good.
I like it.
It's a good name.
So we get Judi Dench as Armand, just so good all the way through. When Luke comes in and she's got the book of poetry for him, and I love it because she hands it to him about it being poetry, and he's kind of, thanks, Grandma. Like, and I just love she leans in.
It's not that kind of poetry.
And then later on, as they're
So-
reading them, and you
Yeah.
realize what kind of poetry it is, and like she knows what this boy's into.
So I don't know why I said I wouldn't do this because here we are. He in the book he has a stutter,
Okay.
and going to the cafe and reading things like the book of poetry to his grandmother help him get over his stutter. Like he doesn't stutter at all when he's with her.
That's
the whole thing.
That's a really cool thing, but
It's like what he gets out of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like
well, I
it
can
turns into the King's
understand.
Speech at some point, you know?
Yeah, and I can understand trimming that out because
It's not vital.
it's not vital to, like, in a book when you've got a little more time. That's a great extra bit, but it would become either too much focus or it wouldn't get enough focus. You'd be like, well, wait, didn't he have a stutter? Where did the stutter go?
Yeah.
So I can get that, but that's interesting. I like that. But I just love that, like, and the poetry is like Edgar Allan Poe type, dark, macabre poetry.
And stuff.
Yep. Oh, it was good. And them reading it is great because it's just all, oh, isn't it terrible and gross? Ooh, I loved it. Before all that happens, when she's lamenting about Carolyn, the way Carolyn treats Luke, I really like this line.
Because I don't like her treating him like a trained poodle. I swear that boy doesn't piss without her permission.
Like, this is the 50s, and she I don't believe this, but like, you don't talk that way. Like, women didn't say stuff like that back then.
Oh yeah.
Like, that was, and that's one of the reasons why I loved the character, and Judi Dench again nails it because you totally believe her. I mentioned this one, but
Any complaints? See me.
nope, not complaining.
No,
Not one bit.
Thanks.
No, I do not want Judi Dench upset with me at all.
No.
Which, when they have the reveal of her insulin and she gets up to leave, because Vianne rightfully is like, I didn't know. And she feels bad.
Right.
And, Armand gets up to walk away and looks at her and just straight up,
Don't you dare pity me.
Yeah.
Like, again, I
We're not doing this.
I don't want none of that smoke. Like, I don't want her upset.
Yeah.
But that was great, which makes later on, when she says this, have so much more impact.
When I need help, I ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we now, by this point, we know who she is, and she does not suffer fools or anybody else.
No.
And for her to say, I need help, powerful,
Yeah.
important. And again, damn onions were getting cut in the room. I'm like, come on, why does she have to be? So when Luke finds her, oh, it's heartbreaking.
I mean, all right, Armand. Maybe not in front of your poor grandson, huh? Like, could you not have sent him home? Like, come on, man.
Well,
He's
it was
just
the
trying to
next
do the
morning, though.
dishes.
Like, it
Was
wasn't
it?
that night. I think it was supposed to be the next
All right.
morning.
I've lost track.
So, but then the last line from her that I captured because it's made me laugh is she's complaining about Carolyn.
Caroline loves the thought of a nurse with a clipboard recording my bowel movements.
I mean, yeah, it's paints a picture, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I did get a couple of Alfred
Especially
Molinas.
when you then put it in 1959.
Yeah.
A 1959 nurse with a clipboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm picturing like Nurse Ratched, right?
Yeah,
This is not a kindly nurse doing this. The kindly nurse doesn't get that job because they don't want to do that to them, the young ones. Molina, again, being great. Like you've got when Vianne, who by this point, like Molina started sort of spreading the rumors about her and all that and trying to do stuff. And she goes to his office, walks right in there, and just this exchange.
What exactly have you been telling people about me?
Only the truth, mademoiselle.
Like, yeah, sure, the truth as you believe it.
Well, I mean, it's true though. He knows because she told him when he showed up to say hi and invite her to worship.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, we don't go." And then he keeps calling her madame, and she's like, "No. I have never been married." And it's like,
yeah. No, I mean,
good for her, but she's not laying low by any stretch.
No, not at all. And she kind of knew this was coming. Or she had to have known something would happen. Like there would be some sort of fallout. But it's just the way he delivers that. I'm only telling them the truth.
So good.
And then you get this. So the same scene we talked about where he walks up on the priest who's singing Elvis to himself and dancing, right? Mm-hmm. And like he's just like, you can't be doing that. Like you can tell he's telling him not to do that without saying those words. But then he hands him the sermon that he's been putting a couple of notes on, and then he tells him this. And I loved this because this was the moment when I realized who he was.
If you haven't seen the new chocolaterie, perhaps you might like to take a look. It's important to know one's enemy, don't you think?
It's important to know one's enemy. Talking about a chocolate shop with the priest. Yep. That was when I was like, okay, now I get who he is, and he's the fanatic. That's when I figured out he hasn't been eating. He's not just Lent. It's not just Lent for him. This is like hardcore Lent.
Yeah.
That was kind of the turning point for me watching the movie, was the whole know your enemy about a chocolate shop. Yeah. Which is why when he later on from the window sees Carolyn going into the chocolate shop and helping set everything up, and he has his breakdown.
Because Carolyn helped him put up all the signs for the boycott immorality.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? Like she's been there. She's his right hand.
Yep. Yeah. And then, but she had her change after losing Armand because before actually losing her, seeing her that night at the party with Luke and kind of figuring out sort of, I've been a little harsh. I've been I could do better. and then losing her the next day, like she's willing to be a part of all of this now, and he sees that, and that's the last thing he had. That was the last thing he had. So that's when he has his breakdown, and I just liked.
Tell me what to do.
Because he's out of ideas.
So
He doesn't
good.
know
Yeah.
anymore, and he already doesn't know what to do. But now he's even further down that road.
He at least knew he knew what he was doing was right.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's right, it should be working, and it's not.
Right. And because of that, now he's like, where do I go from here? I'm out of ideas. I really love this line from Père Henri, from his last sermon.
I think we can't go around measuring our goodness by what we don't do.
That was really good. Because it's true. You can't do it that way.
Yeah.
You just can't. You can't go by what you're denying yourself, what you're not doing, what you remove or take away. And that was kind of the central theme, I think, of the whole movie. And I don't know if that is as prominent in the book, sort of the idea of like living life and not denying yourself, and sort of the human part of that.
I don't entirely remember.
Okay. That's fair. But I do feel like that was at least what the screenwriter took from it and really infused into this movie, was this idea of living life and not restricting yourself. You can be a good person and do all of that.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked. And we did have just two quick ones from Johnny Depp, who, again, prominent in all the marketing all over the place. I thought he was going to be like in so much of the movie, and he's winning what, like 5-10 minutes. Like he's almost completely ineffectual. Like his character doesn't have to be there, but he does.
We do get to see another, like, because when he takes the little girl because she wants a soda water because her tummy hurts,
Mm-hmm.
and so he goes to the cafe, and we get to see that, like, it's another like, no, we're serious about outsiders.
Yeah. I guess when I say he's ineffectual, it's like, I just thought he was so much more important to the baseline of the story, and he's important to the story, but he's not the crux of it.
The other thing too, though, is that Vianne works really hard to show everyone that they can have nice things and they can enjoy their life. Like, they can do things they enjoy. And the one time that she does that for herself, she thinks that she lost her daughter and everything is on fire. So it's like, it's like,
Which I'm gonna read my notes from that moment in the movie. So we've had the party, we've had them dancing, we had the scene I talked about earlier with her and with Vianne and Rue dancing, and just like all the unspoken stuff there. And then they, Anouk and Josephine get tucked in on the boat. They're asleep.
Yep.
They're passed out afterwards. Yep. She goes into Rue's boat with him. They set out on the river, have their thing, their moment. And my thing was, whoa, hold on. Where's Anouk? No movie. And then it's like, it was Serge. And then I was like, okay, all right, good. Anouk is okay. Don't do that to me, movie. Fine. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you could easily have.
Oh yeah.
I
but it's the one time that Vianne does something for herself.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
It doesn't go great.
And honestly, like they played it out long enough that I legitimately thought that's how it was going to go. And I wasn't ready for that. And I don't know how well I would have handled it if the movie had continued down that path. Like, that was rough.
I don't think I would have made you watch it if it had gone down that path.
Thankfully, they pulled out of the dive, because yikes.
Yeah.
But I like when we meet Rue and he's playing guitar, which was nice to see Johnny Depp get to play guitar.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's really
in the
playing.
credits on the soundtrack and everything.
Yep. And when he meets them for the first time, and like he shows them some of his trinkets to sell, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
But when she turns around and she sees Renault, she's like, actually,
That was interesting. Because I mean, like it feels ever so slightly out of character for her to now suddenly care what Renault thinks.
but I think it was. I mean, yes, but I also think that was sort of just her needling Renault. Like, oh, she's seen Renault. Yeah, you know what?
Oh,
I'm going to
all right.
embrace these people because it's going to annoy him. And he's already
Sure.
ruffled my feathers, so I'm just going to ruffle him back. So sure, I'll embrace
All
these
right.
people. And so she buys a couple of the trinkets, and then as she's leaving, we get.
I should probably warn you.
Price.
You make friends with us, you make enemies of others.
Is that a promise?
Is that a promise? I liked that exchange. Johnny Depp's accent was okay. Wasn't great.
Like his character, it is transient.
Yes.
It's
I've
fine.
I've heard much worse.
It's fine. It's
he
not
tried.
egregious. Yes.
No, it's definitely not egregious. Because he was there. He was trying, but he was still very Johnny Depp. But again,
Yeah.
this is 2000
So
Johnny
pretty.
Depp, and he's gorgeous. Just
so
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Had the hair, everything going.
Yeah.
Really good. And then the other one was she keeps trying to guess his favorite. He's the one that doesn't fall for it. But at the end with the hot chocolate.
My favorite hot chocolate.
I just like that. I like that a lot. And it made me want a cup of hot chocolate. Really bad.
Okay, all right. Okay, Travis. Okay, but have you had drinking chocolate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Like with the little chips,
Mhm.
you melt it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's a different experience altogether.
It is.
If anyone hasn't had drinking chocolate, just get some drinking chocolate. It should have little tiny chocolate chips, and you do it on the stove very gently with the milk product of your choice, and it'll change your life.
It really will. And now I'm going to make sure I'm going to get drinking chocolate this week. So we're getting into the fall weather. So
time. It's almost time.
Yeah.
Like I too feel the north wind coming, and it's saying, "Get ready for apple cider and hot chocolate."
I had two more clips I wanted to play because the skirted where I was like movie, and it was when Guillaume is sitting in the confessional with he's got Charlie at his feet, and I love the fact that Guillaume never is anywhere without Charlie because
never.
That's me.
He's got him like in his coat at mass,
Yes.
and it's so good.
Like that is me. If I could take Bella with me everywhere, she would go with me everywhere. Like that's how I would be. So he's sitting in the confessional. He's got Charlie at his feet. He's talking to Henri. Also, I love small town confessionals because, like, in a big city, you're sitting there and there's like the barrier of confessional, whereas this is just like they're just sitting. It's like, yeah, I know who it is.
You just know,
Yeah.
like you know who that is. Like,
but when he says this to him,
you understand an animal has no immortal soul.
Like, first of all, you're wrong. All right, they got a soul. I can tell you right now.
I mean,
that little critter back there.
Like that's the on paper.
Yep, he's following the thing. But Guillaume's response is so good when he talks about Lent and he just says,
"Well, but if Charlie has no soul, then there's no harm in him breaking Lent."
Checkmate, father.
Right. Yep, exactly. Checkmate. I'm out. Like, so I had to get that. I had to capture that.
It's really good.
Look, this movie is absolutely adorable. Now here's the thing. I really liked this. I really liked this movie. You nailed it with it. Great recommendation. Thank you so much for making me watch it. Had I seen this or gone to see this in 2000, I would not have appreciated it the way that I did. I know this.
Yeah.
Much like
19-year-old Travis was a different person.
Really was.
21, whatever we were.
He was a very different person and wouldn't have. I might not have disliked the movie. I wouldn't have appreciated what it was. Much like Amelie. Watching Amelie
Yeah.
a couple of years ago was breathtaking, and I really enjoyed that. And that's the thing that, we're always a different person every time we see a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And to be who I am now, I appreciate something like this character driven story where I can just really connect with these people. It made me want to go find a little village in France and go find a little chocolate shop and just sit in there and drink some drinking chocolate and have some nipples of Venus. I
There
want
you go.
nipples of Venus.
They're technically Italian, though.
I don't care. I'll go to
I
an
know, I'm
Italian
just saying.
village then. That's fine.
That's fine. They're all very similar.
Well, she was in Italy
I feel
before.
like the Italian village has more nonnas just yelling out of windows.
I'm not against that.
French village has more cigarettes. That's my understanding of the differences.
I can't argue with either of those. That's fine.
Yeah.
No, this was a delightful movie. And I also understand why it was up for awards. Like, this was up for, it didn't win any, but it was up for, I think 7 Oscars, something like that. 5.
Yeah.
Juliette Binoche and Judi Dench, both nominated. And I looked at that year because I'm like, how did they not win? Right? Because they're so good. Yeah. And so I looked at 2001 Academy Awards, and this was a hell of a year for movies. So this movie was up for Best Picture. It did not win. That was the year Gladiator won. Say what you want. Gladiator is a great movie, and
sure,
certainly deserving of winning. But like, I can see how. The interesting thing was this was the one Best Picture nominee that didn't win anything. Right. It was nominated for 5, didn't win any, but doesn't win Best Picture. Okay. Here were the Best Actress in a Leading Role nominees that year with Juliette Binoche. Laura Linney for You Can Count on Me. I haven't seen it. Can't speak to that one.
But love Laura Linney.
But Laura Linney's great. Ellen Burstyn in Requiem for a Dream. Damn. That's pretty damn good. Julia Roberts won it for Erin Brockovich. I get that.
I mean, yeah.
Like, come on. And Joan Allen in The Contender. And if you haven't seen The Contender, that movie's real good. And Joan Allen, who I already loved when I finally saw The Contender a couple years ago. Wow. Like, so the fact that she didn't win, like, kind of a coin flip. Any one of those 5, I can't argue with at all. But Julia Roberts winning for Erin Brockovich makes perfect sense. Supporting role, you had Judi Dench for this movie. Kate Hudson from Almost Famous. Julie Walters for Billy Elliot.
Yeah.
Frances McDormand for Almost Famous.
Yeah.
How do you go? You can't go wrong with there. And then the winner, Marcia Gay Harden for Pollock.
Oh, yeah.
I can't argue with any of that. Like, it's just crazy. It's crazy who was up for all of those. The only thing I was a little bummed about was Lhasa didn't get a Best Director nomination here that year. But Steven Soderbergh was nominated twice because he was nominated for Traffic and Erin Brockovich. Like, give him one of those. He doesn't need both nominations. Like, twice, really? He won it for Traffic, but But yeah, I can see why this was like. And the funny thing is, this was a 5 Academy Award nominations. I don't hear it talked about enough.
No.
Now, and I feel like it should be. I just think this was a great movie.
I will say that if you are interested in writing, Joanne Harris is an excellent follow on any of your social media. I did just find her. She's now on Threads, which is nice. She just posts little stuff. She'll post little prompts. You know what I mean? Like, she's pretty chill. She's a fun follow. I like her.
Learning that this was a novel made me want to find the novel. And knowing that there's sequels, I'm curious about those too.
Yeah.
Because this was one of those films where I want to know more about the world that this is, some of these characters, but I also do not want a sequel to this movie. Like, I feel like
No.
this movie told a story. It did exactly what it wanted. It wrapped it up real nice. Like, Vianne's story ends in this movie exactly how I would want it to, and I don't need anything else. But I loved the world that it created and the characters within that. So I'm gonna probably look for this book and check it out, and then maybe read some more. We'll see. But a
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful recommendation. So thank you. I'm learning to not question you when it comes to movies.
I'll make you pay for that.
Well,
Don't even worry.
I guess we'll find out. Now,
Yeah.
you and I actually do another podcast together with our friends Stephen
We
and
sure
Audie.
do.
Yeah, those were the days. And if you enjoy listening to us talk about stuff like this, hey, we talk about old TV. We have a lot of fun with that. We're in the middle of sitcom month, which has been fun.
My episode this week.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But you do a podcast with somebody that we know, and you have a little project going on. Let people know about that, because we're in the middle of
A
that.
little project. I picked this movie on purpose for this very thing. I just knew Italian jobbed you. This entire thing has been a commercial. If somehow you do not know, I, along with my best friend in the entire world, JF Dubois, do a podcast called Aquilo, which is a cozy horror story about demons and baking. If this is a story, if this is this is kind of like a cozy story about kitchen magic, it's the same. It's the same vibe, but with demons and murder and stuff. We have 7 seasons you can listen to right now, but more importantly, we are trying to get season 1 published as a book. We are doing that through a company called Inkshares, who publish JF's other books. And so we need to get 750 pre-orders by Halloween. A very specifically chosen auspicious date, which will also be the 5th anniversary of Aquilo. As of this recording, we are 18 away from the halfway point. We love talking about what we do and begging people to do things for us. We love it so much, and we do it every day now. And so it would mean the absolute world to us. We have a whole bunch of pre-order bonuses. There is an exclusive episode that's coming out soon-ish for backers of the book. There's a signed bookmark. There's stickers. If you purchase 3 or more copies, you become a citizen of Aquilo, complete with your own Aquilo ID card. And who knows, we may keep remembering / adding more things as we go. So to find out everything and to pre-order your copy or copies, go to aquilo.com/book. That's ACHEWILLOW.com/book.
And I do recommend getting the multiple copies and taking them to your local library, or if you've got like the little free libraries in neighborhoods, it's a great book to stash in those too. No, I'm super excited about it. I've talked about this a lot, but I love Aquilo as just a story. Even if I didn't know you and JF and you weren't 2 of my favorite humans walking the planet, I would love the show. So I tell everyone that will listen to me and anyone that won't listen to me about the show and about the book, because it's fantastic. So I'm super excited for that. But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for it to happen. Also, I forgot one thing about Chocolat, which is it has my absolute single all-time favorite IMDb trivia entry.
Yes, let's go.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
The movie's title is French for chocolate.
Fantastic. A+ work, everybody.
Well done.
Good job.
Whoever submitted that, you're doing
fantastic.
You're doing the work.
Doing the Lord's work out there.
It's my absolute favorite one ever. I honestly, though, I'm going to put this movie, I want to put this in a double feature and watch it back to back with Amelie. I think it would be just a real fun evening.
Sure.
Because they would complement each other so well. So, This was super fun. Now, next week, I have another of my favorite people coming back. So I do this show every week, and I record Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/tvstravis or youtube.com/@tvstravis. Next week, I have coming back Phil Rude and his son Austin of The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rude. Austin has never seen Brotherhood of the Wolf, and Phil, I know, has, and I love that movie. And so we're going to make Austin watch it, and I can't wait to get his thoughts on this because
I love
it's a wild
Austin
movie.
talking about movies. I love Austin talking about movies because Phil will be like, actor name. And what Austin pulls up for, oh, you mean the guy from, and it's just whatever movie he says is like 2 decades removed from whatever movie I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
But
like
it's great. I love it. I love it.
you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this is what you think of Alfred Molina from
This is
is
my Alfred
this
Molina
movie.
for sure.
Austin would be like, "Oh, you mean the guy from Spider-Man No Way Home?"
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
that
Doc
kind of
Ock.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But not Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. No, that's 20 years ago. No. The Doc Ock from just a couple of years ago, right? It's wonderful. But I can't wait. I'm really curious to see what he thinks of this, because this movie has some amazing stuff in it, and it's absolutely bonkers of an idea behind a movie. It's so much fun. I can't wait to talk about it. So that is coming up. And then after that, I have crossovers with my co-hosts from Gore Podcast, a podcast to keep you up at night. As we get into spooky season in October, we're going to be talking all sorts of crazy horror movies with that crew. So I can't wait. And if you do enjoy this show, come hang out on a Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for the live stream, or catch it on your podcast. You can get it anywhere you get your podcasts. Ratings and reviews are always welcome. They help the show become more discoverable, including if you use Pocket Casts, you can now rate on there as well. And I have my website, tvstravis.com. You can find all my shows there. You can find links to all my merchandise there if you want my dumb logo on a pair of shoes or a tote bag or a t-shirt. And I'm working on new shirt designs. I still have the Zardoz shirts for episode 200 if you really want one of those. And you can also find the Patreon there, patreon.com/WYHS for as little as, well, I got to change it now. It's going to monthly. Patreon is getting rid of the per creation billing type. So, but if you can back that way, it's greatly appreciated, because it helps me do things like going to Dragon Con, which I just did recently. And hopefully we'll be able to maybe do more conventions and more live episodes, because that is a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing that, and I want to do more of it. So if you want to help out with that, Patreon is a great way to do that, as well as merchandise. But that's all my stuff. Amy, aquilo.com/book. That will be in the show notes. Definitely check that out and listen to us on Those Were the Days.
Yeah.
Because what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about Full House.
That's right. Yes.
The pillar of TGIF.
Yes, one of
that
the
somehow we had not gotten to yet.
Hey, no time like the present, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely check that out. We're on Those Were the Days. You can find that you can find links to that at TV Stravis as well. And then also check out Aquilo. It's a great show. You'll love it. 7 seasons to listen to if you haven't already, or go back and start it over, because it's a great series.
Wait for the book. Just buy
the book.
A few hundred copies. And
sure. Buy the
ready.
book. But until next time, just remember to enjoy your movies, and Lick Speed is excellent too.
I'll come round sometime, get that squeak out your door.
Johnny, you saucy flirt.